right. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Ron G on WSAN Radio. We are honored to welcome Doug Harris, a legend, musician, composer, educator, whose career has touched stages and studios around the world. Good afternoon, Mr. Harris. How you doing today?
I'm doing fine.
Man, just reading up on you, it's an honor to have you in here. When Tammy first told me about you, Tammy exact words, Ron, you need to call this guy and get him on your show. That's what she said. You need to get him on your show. And when you send me the information, I start reading everything. I say, you have been with quite a few musicians and artists, and it was just reading up on it. I was just like, to me, I'm with royalty right now for where you've been. And then what really caught my eye, Texas Southern University. I said,
That's right.
well, I like that. I like that. Let me go and ask you a question for listeners meeting you for the first time. How do you introduce yourself and your sound?
How do I introduce myself and the sound? Well, I haven't really thought about that, but my sound, is I consider myself um, playing different instruments to try to get different types of moods and so forth. Um, I guess you could say I enter myself as a smooth, cool jazz musician.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm into the feeling as
Mm.
opposed to the excitement and the show part. I like to play music for music's sake, for the mind.
Okay. Well, when did you first realize music wasn't just a hobby? It was your calling.
Well, I think when I was in the fourth grade, um, I saw a marching band, and I wanted to play in a marching band so bad, and that was my first introduction to music. And I joined the band in elementary school, and after that, that was my calling. That's when I learned that was my calling.
Hmm.
And I used to have this quote: "So I'm gonna be a musician, a teacher, and I'm gonna play professionally." And so that was my goal in the fourth grade.
Mm.
Now it came to fruition eventually,
Yeah.
but it means that everything that I did from that point on was about achieving that goal.
So, if I'm right, you started on the alto sax, right?
Yes,
At the age of 10.
yes.
What pulled you towards that instrument at first?
Well, what put me towards the instrument was I had a cousin who had a saxophone, and he had finished high school. He wasn't doing nothing with it, just sitting there. And so I asked him if could I play. I wanted to join the band. And you needed an instrument. So I asked him if I could play saxophone. And so he gave me the saxophone, and I've been playing it ever since.
So,
you know.
playing the saxophone, did you play by ear in the beginning, like some people do, or did you study
Well, I was
music?
I was learning to read music, but while you're reading, you pick out a few tunes by ear. You know, I remember we used to hang out at lunchtime in the band room, and guys would be playing some pop tunes, and I learned a few tunes just by ear doing that. And then eventually I learned how to read, and so the reading was important as well as playing by ear. When I got to high school, we started a R&B group. It was called the Ambassadors of Soul,
Mm.
and we used to learn everything by ear. Rehearse the tunes and go out and perform. And so the ear is very important in terms of playing music. You got to play. Not only do you read it, I mean, reading makes it. It makes you're able to perform it quickly with a large group of people. Ear, you know, it may take you a little longer, or uh, you have to rehearse it with a group of people who are trying to hope that they all hearing the same thing. You know, but
Yeah.
with the written pieces, the music is laid out. They already know that it's correct, so then you can just perform it and then add
Yeah.
the inflections of the feeling with it after you've done that. So it's important to do both, you know. But the ear, right? The ears are that first part in terms of improvisation and so forth. But if you want to play with other people, you need to be able to read.
Yeah. So I got a question for you. I have to ask this question. Back in the days, we never had earpieces, and we just played music off each other, like we bounced off each other. And
Mm-hmm.
nowadays, everybody got earpieces. And with you being probably like the era I grew up in, was it difficult to transition over to earpieces in your ear?
Oh, you mean earpiece? You mean headphones? I mean
Yeah, headphones, a little,
earpiece.
yeah, earpiece. Sometimes you're doing live and you got an earpiece. It's almost like having your I don't lost what I was getting ready to say. Sorry about that. It didn't
Yeah,
come
yeah,
to
but
me.
I played live, but I never had an earpiece in.
Yeah,
I mean, there are some that they make for musicians to be able to hear each other on the stages, and
yeah.
so that they don't need a monitor.
That's what I couldn't think of that word monitor. That's what it was.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
so they don't need a monitor if they got an earpiece. But that's a more modern thing, you know.
Okay.
But from all my days, man, you either heard it through the monitors or you didn't hear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody gave you anything unless you were doing a recording session. Now it's a little different.
Yeah.
With
Okay.
a recording session, now you had to have you got to be able to hear it.
Right.
So, but a live performance, it wasn't. I mean, it was necessary, but everybody didn't have that luxury of doing it.
Yeah. So, what was the music scene like in Houston with you coming up?
When I came up, Houston is like an R&B town, basically rhythm and blues and blues mainly, and they had a lot of local groups that was performing live and around town, and even though it's noted for a lot of jazz musicians, jazz wasn't really wasn't really the thing here. Even though you had some cats who were playing it, and I remember as a kid in high school, I got turned on to James Brown band, and I heard one of the records where they were playing instrumentals, and they were playing jazz, and I was saying, "Wow." You know, I took the record to school, tried to let some other kids hear it. And they didn't want no parts of it. You know,
Mm.
I say everybody was like turned off by you know, I like jazz. I mean, I didn't know it. I didn't know what it was, but
Yeah.
I know I like that. And I can remember when my mother brought a record player once, and when you buy a record player, they used to give you some records. So they gave us the Ink Spots and a few other groups. And I used to listen to the Ink Spots, and I would hear this tune, Moonlight in Vermont.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked the tune. And I remember one of my neighbors say, she was an older person, and she said, "You like Moonlight in Vermont? You're an unusual kid." You know, most kids don't like that, you know. I said, but I like it. And then I had a cousin who gave me some records. And one of the records was Dizzy Gillespie and Stan Getz.
Oh
And
yes.
I used to listen to those, and I say, wow, you know, I would like to play this. And then in school, I went to Jack Jakes High School. They had a school band, a small group in the school that would get together and play stuff like Green Onions and
Yeah. Booker T. Yes.
Song for My Father, you know, Horace Silver, and so they were playing the stuff, and I was saying, wow, you know, this is my cup of tea, and so I kind of got involved in it in that way, but like I said, the R&B thing was the thing, so we put this R&B group together, and we started performing. Eventually, we wound up playing with Archie Bell and the Drells, and doing that type of thing. Uh, and when I got in college, I was 1968. I took a music theory course, and uh, the teacher introduced us to Archie Shepp, who was an avant-garde jazz musician, and I was kind of floored. I mean, I didn't know what it was, but it was different, and so I wanted to play jazz. So I was listening to a radio show. This guy named Bubba Thomas. He used to have a radio show on KYOK radio every Sunday. He had a jazz show, so he played all the stuff. That was one day to listen to some real music.
Yeah.
So I was listening one day, and he mentioned that they needed a saxophone player, and so they were auditioning. So I went to the audition, and I got the gig. They were playing avant-garde, free music and
Yeah.
stuff. And I didn't know what it was, but I was trying. So I fell in there, and then that was my start. That was my start right there. With the light, it was called the Light Men Plus One, and we recorded several records. And matter of fact, these records are still available today. Somebody did a reissue of them, and they're still on the market.
Oh, wow.
But we're talking about at least 1970. That's about what, 40 years, 50 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
And but that was my first start, man. And we used to play an Easter jazz show, and I loved it. The people would come out, and even though Houston ain't that kind of town that was into the creative jazz thing, they they loved it. and so I started there with the jazz,
Yeah.
and then we got a little bit more mainstream once we had a piano player, because we started off with just bass, drums, and guitar, no piano. And once we got a piano player, then we became more conscious of chords and so forth. Then the music got a little bit more commercial, and then we were able to do more things, but it was still creative jazz, and it's still alive today, man. And I wrote my first tune with that group, and it's amazing to go back and listen to it.
Yeah.
And I was saying, wow, man, I had no idea what was happening. So I learned, I was learning at the time. And so I just kept learning. And then eventually during college, I read all the books about Charlie Parker and the New York scene and blah, blah, blah. And I said, hey, man, I'm going to go to New York. So when I graduate, I'm going to New York. It's a thought.
Yeah. Isn't it funny when you go back to your first song that you did, and what did you get out of that? Did you find yourself that you evolved, or what did you see yourself at?
Well, I was just surprised, I would say, wow, I didn't know it was going to sound like that. I'm writing, and I know what the melody sounds like, but when you actually have some people play it, now it comes together,
Yeah.
And I was saying, wow, that's great. So I started writing more, and so I got a number of tunes that I've written now, but I try to do all types of things. The creative thing I really like. In other words, I was interested in people listening to the music as opposed to dancing or that type of thing. I want you to sit down and think about it, because I wrote a piece for the Light Men called Sorrow, Bitterness, and Revolution, and it was based on that there was a guy by the name of I think it's not Ralph Hampton. It was Ralph Hampton's brother, Carl Hampton, I think, back in the '60s, that was a Black Panther, and they were patrolling the area in Third Ward, Houston, and they had a shootout with the police. The police killed them, and I wrote a piece based on that. And and when I go back to listen to the piece, I had everything in it, like the machine gun fire and all that type of stuff. But that's the kind of stuff that I like to do to invoke some thinking.
Yeah.
We want to provoke thinking, and it gives you a picture of what it is that you're writing about. It just tells a story. And so I like doing things like that. But I mean, I like doing I like doing the R&B thing too. I can do that too.
When you mention music, you want people to sit down and listen to it. When I first met my wife, I was playing some jazz, and I was sitting on the sofa, and I was just sitting back there with my eyes closed. And my wife said, "Wake up." I said, "I am up." "No, you're not. You was going to." I said, "No, no, 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 dear. You don't understand. I am listening to the music." And that's why I would just close my eyes and sit there and I just listen to the sound. And if it's a good stereo system, you got the stereo going, you can hear the instruments on each side. And when quadraphonics came out, man, I had a whole set. You could hear just going around in circles. But I would sit there with my eyes closed, and a lot of my friends thought I was asleep. I said, no, actually, I was meditating to the music, listening to every instrument in that song. So when you said that, you like to have people to have a song they can sit down and listen to. And that's,
because our connection to, we have what we call the pineal gland. That's our third eye. And our connection to the spirituality is through the pineal gland. And we've been forced away from that type of thinking and so forth. But they always say that musicians have something different about them.
yeah,
And that's because we're closer to God, because we can communicate through that extra perceptions, through that gland.
yeah,
To give you an example, if you remember John Coltrane, he was on a journey, a religious journey, and he played music that was conducive to meditation. And there was an album that he did called Om. And at the time, I didn't know what it was, but after years of taking a look at it, Om was a chant. And when you chant or say that word Om, there's a vibration. So there are frequencies that these chants put out, and it takes you to another state of consciousness. So you start to see, wow, this is beyond what we think it is.
yeah.
You get into the soul, and I can go on, and it gets kind of deep,
Yeah.
So I better shut up.
Well, good. That's a good break right here, because we want to mention you as Texas Southern University. You attended university and you majored in music education. And what did TSU mean to your development?
Hey, TSU meant everything, man. It was everything. Just to go beyond that, I used to live, say, maybe 10 blocks from TSU, and I went to high school, which was just a couple blocks from TSU, and I used to walk by TSU to high school every day, and never thought about going there. and then when I became a senior in high school, And, we sent out our applications for all the different schools and stuff. And then I realized, you're going to have to pay. You want to go, I wanted to go to Florida A&M, Southern, say, but it's going to cost you, and I don't have the money. And so I came to school one day, and a good friend of mine by the name of James Bolden, he was B.B. King's musical director for 30 years. And I asked him, where are you going? He said, I'm going to TSU. And he said, man, go talk to the band director. He'll give you a scholarship. So I went over and auditioned, and they gave me a scholarship.
Wow.
That's how I got into school. Otherwise, I didn't know if I was going to go or not. So once I got in, the chairman of the music department, his name was Jack Bradley, he said, what you want to major in? I said, well, I want to major in performance. And he said, well, it might be better to major in education, just in case your performance career doesn't jump off. And that was the best advice I got. That was the best advice I got, because that's exactly what happened, Because as you know, musicians are struggling all the time, especially playing jazz. It won't pay all of the bills. It may pay some of them, but it won't pay all the bills. So you got to make a living some sort of way to be able to play the music.
There you go.
And then when you start to look at all the great performers and composers and stuff, they all had other gigs. They were teaching in colleges. I remember Yusef Lateef was teaching at University of Mass. Larry Ridley was at Rutgers University. I mean, they were like all over the place. Cecil Taylor was at University of Wisconsin. And so it's like, you start to figure out, hey, I guess you have to have a real job, and then you play the music as you can. And so it took me a while to come to realization on that. But I had that in the back of my mind. So therefore, I made sure that I finished college before I left for New York. So I had a degree, and I said, well, I can always fall back on this if things are not working out.
So true.
That's pretty much what happened. I played for about 10 years. I was working with Mongo Santa Maria, and we were traveling and playing, and it was great. It was great. The money was good when we were playing, but we'd be off a lot. So it just kind of matched. And then at some point when we decided to have a kid, and my wife said, you need to stay home. And I say, okay. So I stayed home and wasn't nothing happening.
Yeah.
And I said, I need to go get a job. So I started teaching in 1981. And I was in special ed. And I didn't know anything about special ed. And I said, well, the principal said, when you come to work, wear your work clothes. And I thought I had my work clothes on. I was wearing a suit.
Yeah.
I said, I thought this was my work. But anyway, I started working at the school. These kids were special ed, severely emotionally disturbed. And man, they were standing on the piano. They were doing all kind of things. Man, I say, man, this is crazy, man. I can't deal with this.
Yeah.
And the principal said something to me that made me think. He said, why do you think you can do something? We've been teaching for 30 years and we can't do nothing. So I had to think about that. And so then it became a challenge, to be able to do something with these kids. And so I accepted the challenge. But I say, well, after this year, first gig I get, I'm gone. So I got a job with the rock group called Blondie. And I went on tour with them during the summer. I came back in September, and we were supposed to go to New Zealand. So I gave the principal my notice,
Mm.
and about a week before we were supposed to leave, they canceled the tour.
Oh man.
And I said, man, I just quit my job, and they canceled the tour. Then I realized at that point, I say, hey, you know, I guess I'm gonna have to do the gig. Well, they had me back because they didn't have anybody to replace me anyway. But then I took another approach to it. I
Yeah.
said I'm going to do the school gig, so for me to give it 100%, I got to get something out of it. Kids got to get something out of it. Principal got to get something out. So I took that approach, and then I could still play because all of the things that happened in the music world were after 3 p.m.
Yes.
So I can make rehearsal, I can still make the gig, unless it was out of town for a while. And then I made a few of those, where I take out for a week, just to go out of town. So I continued to play while I taught. And the next thing you know, the years start passing by. And the next thing you know, it's time to retire.
Mm.
And
You just said I got to ask you this one question because you study with greats like Hubert Laws, Frank Foster. What's one lesson from them that still carries with you today?
well, I remember Hubert told me, he says, I told him I was going to be a jazz musician. He said, man, don't be a jazz musician, be a musician. Because if you're going to make a living at this, you're going to have to play all styles of music. That was a great thing, because during that time we said, yeah, man, I'm a jazz musician, man. Hey, but like I said, that don't pay the bills.
Right.
So if you want to pay the bills, you got to play everything. So I played Latin music. My first gig was with Latin band. I ain't know nothing about any Latin music, but I could read, and so I was able to play Latin music. And then I played classical music. I played with a doctor's orchestra at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York, and that was pretty much classical kind of thing. I played R&B with the R&B guys, and so you play whatever it calls for, and so you need to be well versed on playing anything. So I played a few jingles, and so just anything that comes your way, man, just be able to play.
Yeah.
And then you can work. You can work all the time. And so that was the best thing that I got, from that situation.
And also, it shows here you perform with Stevie Wonder, Nancy Wilson, Luther Vandross, the Duke
Yeah.
Ellington Band, and more. So, what was the first moment that you said, I made it? Was there a
Well,
moment when you
during
performed?
those times, I was on my way to making it. When I played with Stevie Wonder, we used to do Motown used to send their artists out with a rhythm section, and they had to hire the horn players in whatever city they went to. But the rhythm section, they were already rehearsed. And they just had to add the horns. So I was on call when I was at Texas Southern. One of the graduate assistants, he would contract a lot of those gigs, and so I would get the opportunity to play on all the different performances. Gladys Knight, all of these people, man, and that was to play those gigs. You had to be able to read because you had one rehearsal, and then you play the gig, and so that was the thing that was getting me ready for any other thing that came about. And that's why I was saying TSU was so important because we were able to learn our craft,
Yeah.
at TSU doing those types of things and being exposed to different musicians and so forth. Uh, with our jazz band at TSU, we did a lot of performances where Arnie Cobb was the guest artist. We did an album with Arnie Cobb on it too, and a lot of the conductor's friends will come out and rehearse at the university. We had workshops with Quincy Jones
Oh, yes.
and Billy Harper, and so we did all these events. So the other thing was meeting people along the way. You know, I remember meeting Ronson Roland-Kirk, and I used to take him around town because Ronson's wife, named Dorthorn Kirk, I think her mother lived in Houston, over by Yates, and I had a car, so I would take them over to see him. So I got to know some of the musicians that way. Grover Washington came to Texas Southern, and he judged a high school band festival. So I got to know him, you know, and so building relationships is also part of being a musician, because if you don't know anybody, you know, it's very difficult, you know. So just learning these people and finding out who they were and getting to know them, it gave me somebody to lean on once I made that move, you know. So that's what I got out of TSU. That was great.
Okay. We got a question right here from somebody named William here in San Antonio. He's talking about Jamaican Sunrise. When you composed it, did you hear the melody first, the rhythm first, or the full arrangement?
No, I heard the chord changes. Those set of chord changes I was playing, and I kept playing, and I said, "Wow, I'm gonna make I gotta put a melody to this," and that's how I came up with it.
Mm. Well, that's something else.
And so, what's his name? You heard the song? Great.
He's a jazz person here, and I was telling him you're gonna be on. He said he's gonna tune in. You know,
Okay.
you also did some things on HBO.
Yeah, I did Boardwalk Empire.
Okay.
I did a couple of episodes of that. I was in the band behind the singer, and that was a great. That was a great experience, you know, to be able to sit through a movie type production. That's hard work too.
Did they come find you?
No, that was somebody who was doing that gig,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a saxophone player, and he was teaching at Long Island University, and so he couldn't stay there all day because we had to stay there all day and wait till they called us. He said, "Man, I can't do this." You know, he did it one day, so they gave him my number, and they
Okay.
called me, and I went out and did it, and it was a different experience, man. I mean, I had never been in a situation like that before,
Yeah.
but just to see how they do everything, you know. But you would get dressed, you know. You went to wardrobe, and they dress you up, but you would sit there all day waiting on them to call you, man.
Yeah.
That was taxing.
It's almost like going to jury duty. You don't know you're gonna be pulled. You just sit there all day waiting for your name to be called.
That's right, man. We stayed there one time till about 10 p.m. from 7 to 10 p.m.
Was your name
and
called?
then and then they called us out to do our
Wow.
part. So
Wow.
wow.
Yeah, they do
So
work.
man,
They work crazy hours, don't they?
yeah. It's like being a musician, man. You work all kind of hours,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
I hear you on that.
Some musicians go to the studio at midnight,
Yes.
come out at 6 a.m.
You know, I'm from the Chicago area, and I fiddled around with the bass a little bit. Wasn't that great? And there's one guy named Ricky. He was there. Come on up here. Let me show you how this bass. I said, no, I don't. I just here just to watch. So he taught me to play um, Earth, Wind, and Fire. That's the way of the world. He taught me the bass line of that. And I said, okay. So I got pretty good at this. Saying that. So they had a gig one day. And I'm sitting out there in the audience. Well, I'm going to turn it over to my man who just learned how to play this song. I'm having a drink. I said, he said, Gordon, you want to come up here? I said, no. But I went up there anyway. And I tell you, that feeling is unique and different. Number one, you can't see the crowd because all them lights on. You can't see anything. Boy, when I got finished playing, I walked off that stage. I told that bartender to pour me one of everything. I was still nervous, and so I see what it takes to be on stage and to do things. People think it's so easy, but it's not. They don't see behind the scenes what y'all do to prepare for it. You know, everybody always see the polished image up there, but they don't want to go through the struggles anymore. They want now with this new stuff out right now, you could do this, do that, play this right here, play this right. You're not doing anything anymore. You know, so I miss the old school.
Yeah, there's a lot of work involved though, man. You spend hours practicing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then you think about it, you go out and play a little concert, especially if it's a concert. You only play for about 20 minutes. And you said, I did all this practicing for
20
20
minutes.
minute spot.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Hours getting mad at each other. You get on stage for 20 minutes, you say, what?
Right.
Yeah, but you know, but that's getting the thing. What's the old saying? Practice make perfect.
That's right.
And you need to practice in order. So whoever knows that everybody's look for that moment where they get called up and say, "Oh, I made it. Here I am." But then I talked to several band people back in the days, and they said, "Ron, that is such a hard life." He said, "It is so hard. You up 1 minute, you got a number one hit, and then 6 months later, they don't even know you." You know, he said, it's such a hard life, and you try to keep up with everything and the spending. And you see all these things, they showing all this glitter and stuff. The guy came and told me, you know, we rent all that stuff. We don't own none of that stuff. We rent all. I said, what about the money on the bed? Oh, we got security guards out there counting it when we get finished. No, that's not our money. So there's, I started laughing. I said, you got people acting like you just rolling in money and you're not. And like you said, they also got a 9 to 5 job.
That's right. But that's part of the business.
Yeah.
It's looked like a life of glamour. Yeah, but it requires a lot of work.
Yeah. So, getting down to nitty gritty, do you have any current projects going on that you're working on?
Well, right now I'm just working on a tribute to Mongo. Mongo was a Afro-Cuban percussionist.
Mm-hmm.
One of the, one of the creators of the Latin jazz movement. And I was just sitting up one day and I was saying, man, you know, I don't hear nothing like that no more.
Yeah.
I mean, you got some people out there doing it, but Mongo did it different. So, and plus I had written a lot of tunes for him. So I said, I'm going to take my tunes and put the Mongo twist on it. And because they're still fresh, you know.
Yeah.
And so I said, I think what I need to do is put this show together and do it like a tribute to Mongo. And then I also want to do a tribute to McCoy Tyner. So these become theme-oriented ideas that I could do a live performance based on, you know. And not to forget our elders, you know, because
Yeah.
they were standouts during their time. McCoy Tyner, man, that was one of my favorite piano players. he was the first piano player that I really liked.
Mm.
And I heard about him in 1968 when I was a freshman in college. And there's a guy named William Jeffrey. He turned me on to McCoy. It was McCoy playing with John Coltrane. And William Jeffries he's a drummer. He wrote the tune "Friends and Strangers" by Ronnie
Ron
Laws.
Laws, yes.
Yeah, and but he was into Elvin Jones. So he said, "Man, you got to check this out." And I say, "Man, who is that piano player?" Oh man, he's playing piano the way I like to hear it because all the piano players I knew previous to him, they were smooth and soft and sweet. I said, but this cat, he's more percussive, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, uh, so I got turned on to him, and he was the backbone of John Coltrane. Without McCoy Tyner, I don't know if there would be a John Coltrane because when he played those that pedal tone behind Train, man, that made his music happen.
Yeah.
So, but that was 1968. Okay, around 1990, 1995, I get a call to go sub for somebody who was playing with the McCoy Tyner Big Band, and I wind up playing. We started, we was playing a gig. It was like once a year, and we played this gig for maybe 2 years, and then after that we did a recording, and then the band took off. We won 2 Grammys
I see that.
with that. Yeah, but oh man, that was the most exciting. It was a great band, but to hear McCoy Tyner play, man, oh man, it was just awesome. I mean, I'm saying, man, how did I get here? You know, what's so strange about it? During that time, I was arts coordinator of a school district, and so I had to work all day, and then after we would do like a week at the Blue Note,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll come to the gig, find a parking space, and then I'll sit in the car until time to go to the gig, and I'll be tired, sleepy. Man, once we got on stage and McCoy hit, it was like, wow. I was awake the rest of the night, man.
Yes,
And we had to
sir.
go to work the next day.
Oh wow. See,
Hey
see.
man, but that was, I would say that had to be my highlight to have played with McCoy,
Yeah.
and he's the most copied piano player. Everybody plays a little bit of McCoy in their playing.
So I'm getting my jazz show together on Saturday. I'm sure gonna pick your brain because I want to bring a different type of jazz than what they're listening to right now. I want to go back to the old school and everything. So
Hmm.
I'm gonna be picking your brain. But I got another question to ask you. What is the difference between playing live versus recording in the studio?
Well, playing live, you get the actual feeling from the audience. The audience is let me cut my phone off here. Yeah, the audience is actually can't even turn the phone off, man. The audience actually have a play. You feeding off their emotions. When you're in the studio, there's nobody else there but you, and so you do the best you can to get that. That's why you see a lot of people have a record in a live with a live audience
Yeah.
because it feels different. People play different, so they're feeding off the energy from the audience.
Hmm. Yeah, I can see that point right there because just like with me DJing, I don't know what to play. The audience dictate what I need to play. Is the fast crowd or slow crowd? It
Mhm.
depends. But I can imagine if they're playing live. So when you are up there playing live. Now, most sports athletes get into a zone. It's like whatever they do, it just happens. Is magicians the same way? Do y'all get into a zone when they say this one song supposed to last maybe 5 minutes and somebody get in that zone and you end up going 10 minutes with a song?
Well, that happens. Sometimes, not all the time, because sometimes you're conscious of playing too long. You don't want the people to walk out because you're taking a long solo or whatever,
Yeah.
taking too long to hear the next person. So you try to make it short, and sometimes you may not have that much to say. If if you got a lot to say, then you might want to play a long time. But you got to keep the audience attention. And so what we find is that people attention span is short. so so you don't want to play too long. You give them a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and don't try to give them a lot of anything because they're gonna get bored quick if they
Okay.
don't know what's going on. You see,
Yeah.
so you play for different audiences. Sometimes you have audience that knows what's happening, then you can play different. But you only know that when you play for them.
Right.
You
Right.
get a feel. You get a feel for how the audience feel about something, and
Okay.
then you can stretch. You can stretch because they're really into it.
Yeah.
But if they're not, hey, you know, they'll be walking out.
Yeah. Definitely. Are you willing to take a few questions from some people?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Um, which one? Okay, let me get to where I was at the beginning. Okay. Do you have a signature sound and how did you develop it?
My signature sound it is primarily on the flute, and I developed it through practicing and studying with different flutists. Um, and of course, Hubert Laws being one of my idols, I always try to imitate him. And I think we do that with anybody. We have somebody that we want to sound like, and so we try to create sound based on that. But yeah, I
Okay.
did a lot of studying uh, with different flute players, and that's how I developed. I studied it.
Okay. We look at jazz as an art. What do you think people misunderstand most about jazz?
I think jazz is kind of abstract to some people because they don't know basic uh, the theory of the music or whatever. You only know what you have heard and what you can relate to, and uh, so some things can be taught. And we have all these different experiences where if we attended a school, we took a fine arts class or some type of music appreciation class, and then they taught us some of the elements of the music. We learned it that way. Other than that, if we didn't attend something like that, then what we hear a conglomeration of sound coming at us, but we don't know what it's made of. And so I think that the music has to be broken down to some people, and you kind of have to be taught to listen because
Hmm.
what do we listen for? Some of us don't know what we're listening to. All they know is it sound good, it sound bad. you know, it's like my brother. My brother says, he says, "Man, I don't know what y'all was playing, but it was happening."
But
So, but all of the music have elements, and they can be broken apart and be explained. Uh, but the general average person, they don't know that process. They just know they hear it, they like it, it's great. If you don't like it, then it's not good. And then that comes from when you hear things quite often, eventually you start to like it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I mean, that's been proven with radio.
Yeah.
That'll play a tune uh, that you would think that's not good. They play it so much, everybody start thinking it's great. You know.
Yeah.
So if you play anything a lot, then somebody's gonna like it. You
That's
know.
yeah. So,
And I think you have to look at it like that.
so how does jazz reflect culture and social history?
Because the music is being played and things are happening at the time that it's being played. We have these eras that we live through, and certain eras dictate certain things in culture and certain things that have taken place. So they say you can learn the history through the music. You know, certain things were happening historically or socially during the time we were creating certain types of music.
Okay.
That's as simple as I can explain it.
All right. I'm gonna hit you up with some rapid fire questions. You ready?
Hmm.
All right. One instrument you love that you mastered.
Fruit.
Dream collaborations.
No, well, you got to repeat that.
What's that?
Oh, I say you have to repeat that.
What instrument you love to master next?
Oh, next.
Yes.
Oh, I have a wind controller. I just got it, and I'm gonna start playing it.
Okay. And
It's
for
called the
the
Aerophone.
audience out there, what is that?
It's a wind controller. It's like a electronic instrument that controls a synthesizer. Um, yeah, you can control the synthesizer with it. Plus, it has its own built-in sounds. So you're playing electronically. So rather than playing, say, a saxophone sound, you can play any type of sound. It could be trumpet, it could be bass, it could be whatever. And so you just use it in a way where you can be creative with it.
Is it something similar that Timmy Thomas did?
I don't know Timmy Thomas.
Okay, he did a song. He was a one-man band. Oh, I'm trying to think of his song right now.
Well, it's like the Iwi. If you heard of the Iwi, that was
Yeah.
an instrument that Michael Brecker used to use. It's somewhat like that.
Okay.
It's just a synthesizer for a wind instrument.
I'm gonna see if I could pull. Why Can't We Live Together? That was the name of his song. Does that ring a bell?
No.
Let me see. This is what he started off with. And he was just using one, I don't know what it was called, but he had everything in there. And he
Well, it
did
sounds
that.
like Kungas.
Yeah, and he was a one hit.
Bongo.
He was a one hit wonder. That song came out and then it just disappeared. But I still play it on my show because that's a theme song right there. Okay, dream collaborations, living or legacy. Which one?
Living.
Living.
Yes.
Who would it be?
Who would it be? Dreams? You say
Yeah,
dreams
dream collaborations.
or collaborations? Now I guess I must say legacy now because I can't think of who I want to collaborate with.
Okay. Well, you collaborate with a bunch of legacy ones. You know, that's a list right there. All right. Favorite warm up song or scale routine?
playing major scales, general routine, playing major and various scales.
Okay, last one. One album every young musician must study.
Kind of Blue, Miles Davis.
Good choice. Good choice. I like that choice and everything. All right, let me see. I think we're doing good right now. So, the ball's in your court right now. Tell everybody how they get a hold of you, or you have a concert come up or anything. Let the public know how can they find you.
Right now, I'm not doing anything that's coming up at this time, but you can catch me on at N1M slash Doug E. Harris.com.
Okay. I'll make sure I get that in there and all that. Well, Doug Harris, I appreciate you taking the time out and coming on board this afternoon. And you came in, and I'm gonna pick your brain because I want to get some of them artists you named off. I'm be honest with you, I never heard of.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, I thought you said you was into the music.
I'm into, but you back there on some of the. Now I know the ones who is famous out there seeing them, those right there. But you mentioned McCoy right there. That's the first time I heard of McCoy.
That's the first time. Hey man, he's
Yeah.
the backbone of John Coltrane.
Yeah, see, so I gotta up my game.
Yeah. Yeah. Well. Yeah, you do need to up your game.
Okay. I'm just being honest with you. I listen to so much music and when you said McCoy, I said, but
And Frank Foster, you never heard of?
Frank Foster I have, but McCoy I haven't.
Yeah, Frank Foster was with the Count Basie band.
Yes.
I played with Duke Ellington.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard of Duke Ellington?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard of all them right there. Duke Ellington, the rest of them. Yes, I remember. So
Yeah, and a host of other people, But,
yeah,
it's been a journey.
yeah. So
Been
all
a
right,
journey.
all right. You take care until next time. We'll talk to you later.